climate change may be a good thing.
Mr. Reagan.
What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
Remember to get your Trump mugshot mugs and t-shirts from my Teespring site. The link is in the description below. They are the best designed Trump mugshot images that you can get. Look cool and be patriotic at the same time. For like 3 decades now, people have been freaking out about global warming or climate change, and in particular, CO2 emissions. The climate change alarmists insist that anthropogenic climate change, that is, human-caused changes in the climate, are inevitably catastrophic. They use the term existential crisis, suggesting that the world will cease to exist.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
And a lot of us have heard over the years that this is an exaggeration. This is based on flawed computer models, etc., etc., etc. And yes, all that is true. But I'm here to tell you, not only is the CO2-influenced climate change not catastrophic, it may actually be massively beneficial to the Earth. This is because of something called global greening. I'll explain global greening in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. Do you want to take control of your financial future, but you don't know where to start? Noble Gold Investments understands. Investing in precious metals may sound confusing, but the team at Noble Gold Investments, they make it easy. Let's hear from some actual Noble Gold Investments customers. One customer says, the staff answered all my questions and helped me every step of the way. Another says, no pressure sales tactics, just honest guidance. And finally, securing my future is less stressful thanks to Noble Gold's expertise. So look, don't settle for financial uncertainty. They will suggest options and see if you can diversify into gold and silver. Right now, Noble Gold Investments is offering a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful bullion coin for qualified accounts. Don't settle for financial uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews. Why wait? Go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now, noblegoldinvestments.com, the only gold company that I trust. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, so Chris, you're saying everybody seems to think that climate change is this great crisis, but you're saying that it's a good thing. How could you possibly suggest that climate change might be a good thing? Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned before the break, it's because of something called global greening. Global greening is the term used to describe an increase in the plant growth all over the globe. This phenomenon has a variety of causes, but a lot of those causes are, at the moment, related to climate change. Take the warming of the earth, for example. People think that hot weather causes droughts. No, dry weather causes droughts. And as the planet heats up and the oceans warm ever so slightly, more water evaporates into the atmosphere, causing clouds, right? That water becomes clouds. These clouds then travel across the land, they cool, and they then form rain, which nourishes all the plant life across the globe. So warming the planet actually creates a greener planet. And a greener planet means more food for animals and more food for humans. Everyone thrives in a warmer climate.
Forests like these covered much of the island until the arrival of the Vikings in the 9th century, when trees were cut down to make room for houses and farms. But from the 1950s, plans were launched to replant woodlands. The soil and weather in Iceland mean forests grow less quickly than elsewhere, something that is gradually changing.
What has mainly been hampering growth of forests here has been the low temperatures, the coolness of the summers. But we are realizing changes in that because of climate change, because of global warming.
NASA in 2016 posted an article about this describing the greening effect of CO2. It says, carbon dioxide fertilization greening Earth study finds. And this is on the NASA website. This is not some like right-wing conspiracy theory website. This is NASA. From a quarter to half the Earth's vegetated lands have been shown significant greening over the past 35 years, largely due to rising levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide, according to a new study published in the journal Nature Climate Change on April 25th. Now, this is a kind of an older article. This is from 2016, so this is a while ago. So we probably greened even more from this, except for, those carbon, caps and, all the legislation maybe inhibited the greening, but let's keep reading here. An international team of 32 authors from 24 institutions in 8 countries led the effort, which involved using satellite data from NASA's Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectrometer and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Advanced Very High Resolution Radiometer instruments to help determine the leaf area index, or amount of leaf cover, over the planet's vegetated regions. The greening represents an increase in leaves on plants and trees equivalent in area to 2 times the continental United States. So this is a massive, massive increase in the amount of greening across the globe. Green leaves use energy from sunlight through photosynthesis to chemically combine carbon dioxide drawn from the air with water and nutrients tapped from the ground to produce sugars, which are blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a crap. However, carbon dioxide fertilization is not the only cause of increased plant growth. Nitrogen, land cover change, and climate change by way of global temperature, precipitation, and sunlight changes all contribute to the greening effect. To determine the extent of carbon dioxide's contribution, researchers ran the data for carbon dioxide in each of the other variables in isolation through several computer models that mimic the plant growth observed in the satellite data. Results showed that carbon dioxide fertilization explains 70% of the greening effect, 70%, 70. I don't know if that's accurate. If that's right, that's a heck of a lot of impact, and maybe we should just be pumping out a little bit more CO2, really. Said co-author Ranga Mineni, a professor at the Department of Earth and Environment at Boston University. The second most important driver is nitrogen at 9%. So we see what an outsized role CO2 plays in the process. About 85% of the Earth's ice-free lands is covered by vegetation. The area covered by all the green leaves on Earth is equal to an average of 32% of the Earth's total surface. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a crap. As I see it, there are 2 problems with environmental intervention by the government, right? The government's always trying to say, oh, there's all this climate change, it's this terrible thing, we've got to stop it. First problem, trillions of dollars go into this crap, and it doesn't even really do anything. Why are we spending so much of our tax dollars? Like, I want to keep my money. I don't want to pay the federal government money to put it into climate research when it doesn't do anything. 2, these interventions might turn out to be worse than what already exists, right? Their solution might be worse than the initial problem. Sometimes they say the cure is worse than the disease or something like that, because these people don't know what they're doing. Okay, the federal government doesn't know what it's doing with regard to science of any kind. So they throw a bunch of money at scientists who may or may not know what they're doing. I mean, probably they have some idea, but you know, it's hard to tell, because like you can't know how brilliant a scientist is until he either comes up with something brilliant or F's up completely. And then you go, all right, you were useless. I shouldn't have given you money. But like they're talking about stuff like seeding the clouds in the atmosphere to cover the world in a shroud of darkness to stop the earth from heating up, and like insane stuff like that. We obviously don't want to do this. We don't want to intervene in such a way that it's actually going to be detrimental to the earth. But you know what the problem is? Politicians, they love to intervene. They love to intervene in everything, and especially environmental stuff. And here's why. Because it makes them rich. This is a massive grift. It's not just climate change, it's like everything. I was going to do a whole video on commuter trains and other kinds of public transportation. Politicians love to set up public transportation projects because they can put in like hundreds of millions of dollars into a project, and you know for the process of producing this stuff is like super slow. This stuff never gets built. Where's that money going? It's a con, okay? It's a grift. They're stealing the money. They're stealing taxpayer money. They're getting kickbacks, of course. And with climate change, this is like the ultimate grift. Politicians waste billions of dollars, maybe even trillions of taxpayer dollars on this crap every year in order to help their Wall Street buddies get rich. And meanwhile, they always seem to have a billion methods of their own for getting rich from this kind of investment. Maybe they've got their own investments benefiting them, or maybe they're getting kickbacks. But whatever it is, they get rich along the way. Now here's one way that it works from what I've read. Then this is the BlackRock scheme. Let's say you are a big investment company like BlackRock, right? And you've got to invest billions and billions of dollars of other people's money. And you know, you could invest in oil. Maybe if you're lucky in a year, in a particular year, you might get 10% return on investment. Let's say you put in $10 million, you get $1 million back. Awesome. That's a great return. But let's say you put it into some like solar energy companies. Let's say you put it into some wind energy companies, and then you convince the federal government, can you put more of the government money into wind energy, into solar energy? Now, here are the companies you got to invest in. this renewable energy crap. Here's the companies you want to invest in and give them government contracts and all this kind of stuff. Now, suddenly, these wind energy companies, these solar energy companies that you've invested in, suddenly they go up. The value of their company goes up like 1,000%. Okay. So you invested $10 million and you've just got 1,000% return on investment. What is that? Like $1 billion you just made? Something crazy like that. So of course, it's going to be a far better investment to go into an emerging market as opposed to an established market like oil. So this is the scheme, right? And they convince the governments of the world to invest in this stuff. They have all their investments in this stuff and they're making obscene amounts of money. But the politicians can't go along with it unless the American people and the people of the various other countries of the world are behind it. They appreciate what these politicians are doing because they think that they're saving the world or whatever, right? So it's in the best interest of these politicians to keep the public petrified about the so-called catastrophic effects of climate change. As I said, this is a massive grift that keeps these politicians rich. Meanwhile, we're all being lied to. And gullible Democrat voters, they are kept in a state of perpetual terror that, quote, the world is going to end in 12 years. So look, I love the truth. I love knowing what's going on in the world. If there are problems, if there are serious problems, we need to address those problems. And one major issue here with all this climate change hysteria and stuff like that, we are distracting people from real problems by having them focus over here on these ridiculous lies, right? It's important to me. It's important to a lot of other conservatives that are on YouTube and, you know, hopefully in other forms of conservative media, that you guys know the truth. Not just you guys, but also Democrat voters. And to me, it's like actually very sad that only like half the country is told the truth. And the other half, so unbelievably gullible. And they're constantly lied to, what? For the greed of a few people in DC. It's absolutely disgusting. People are just so greedy. It makes me sick. Speaking of greed, you really should buy my Donald Trump mugshot mugs and T-shirts and put a bunch of money into my Mr. Reagan logo T-shirts. You know why? Because I'm a capitalist. But here's the great thing about my cups and hats and all the stuff that you could buy from my Teespring store. I'm not tricking the world into thinking that the world's going to end in 12 years. I'm not doing any detrimental damage, right? So better to give me the money than just let it go to taxes and pay for all this climate change mumbo jumbo. The link is, of course, in the description below. And look, I want to see your guys' comments in the comment section. I want to know what you guys think about this. And remember, it's not that liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.